Kevin. Welcome to the Sober Side podcast. It's a pleasure to have you. I want to let you do your own introduction. So tell us, well, we know your name's Kevin, but tell us how old you are, where you're from, and if you're AA or NA, and how much time in recovery you have.
Okay, my name is Kevin. I'm going to be 50 here in like a week, which is crazy. I can't believe I made it that long. I've been sober since 2013. My sobriety date is 1/10/13. I'm equal opportunity sober, just like I was an equal opportunity drug addict and alcoholic, all the above. So I do AA, and I mean, primarily AA, but I do CA, Heroin Anonymous. I haven't been in the rooms of Narcotic Anonymous a whole lot, but I have been to their meetings, and I just am at service wherever I can be.
Oh man, so you're coming up on 13 years.
More sure.
13 years sober and then clean, or clean and then sober. How do you prefer
being and sober? Either way, I mean, they all apply to me. They all went hand in hand. My alcohol always went with drug use. My drug use always went with alcohol use. It was all a common problem to me.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about like what you're doing now, like what do you do for a living and how you're, involved in recovery kind of.
Yeah, okay. I work hard for a living. I do plumbing right now. I work for a little small company, just me and the owner of the company. And yeah, I work hard every day. Every day is a new challenge. I love what I do because it's not the same thing every day. It's not repetitive, and I don't get bored. And I just, I go out there and I earn money. My hands look dirty, even though they're clean. And I have a good life because of it. I have all the little things that I want in life. In recovery, I'm pretty active in my recovery too. Ever since I got sober, I've been involved. I've taken commitments at the meetings. I started doing that. I started doing service work at the area. I do a lot of H&I service work. I do a lot of H&I panels, so.
What's H&I?
H&I is hospitals and institutions where we go into like facilities where they're like locked down, deep pockets and stuff, and they can't get out. And we just go in there and carry a message and try to help people see that there is hope, I mean, I don't know if there's anything I could do other than show people like someone that got as bad as me to get sober than anybody could, because I'm not special. The fact that I was able to manage this and be where I'm at today is a testament to what this thing could do for us, so that's where I'm at, man. That's what I'm doing.
Awesome, man. And for anyone who, this is a podcast. Technically, it's supposed to be listened to, but it's on YouTube. People watch it.
Yeah.
As you can tell, like, we're both Dodgers fans. So the Dodgers just won. I don't know. I just wanted to point that out because we're Dodger geared up.
Yeah.
But so I want to get into your story. I want to get into what is the first ever memory that you can think of? Just like the oldest memory that you have.
Oh, that's a good one. Because I talk about it all the time when I share a meeting. My first memory ever that I ever had was my mom was a registered nurse, and she was divorcing my dad. I was like 3.5, 4 years old. And she came home from the hospital. She had a little problem with taking some of the medication from the hospital, and she overdosed right in front of me. And I remember we were living at my grandma's house, and I was 4 years old. I was shaking her and trying to wake her up, and for a couple minutes, and nothing was happening. So I just went and told my grandma, Mom's dead. That was my earliest memory. That's crazy, right?
Wow.
Right into it.
She actually passed away.
No, she was in a coma for 6 months. And then she was in it was back in the the end of the 70s and the 80s. So the treatment centers there were way different than everything is nowadays. It was like a hospital situation. And she was all the people were just walking around like zombies. And it was crazy going to visiting her there. Because that was part of the whole thing is seeing my mom in the coma for 6 months, going to the hospital once a week and visiting her with my grandma. And then onto the little treatment place, whatever it was, the hospital more than a treatment, and then it was staying with grandma after that. That's when my mom lost custody of me. So I became property of my grandma, then award to her.
So what was your mom? So your mom was an addict?
Yeah. And my dad too, both of them.
So what was their drugs of choice? What were they doing?
So, like I said, my mom was a registered nurse at first. So I started with the drugs in the hospital, and like throughout my whole life, she was always like, me and my mom were really close, even though we had so much bad history together. Like, but she was doing everything. She was out there smoking crack. She was doing methamphetamine. She was, always on the pain pills. She would get a lot of pain pills. Like, she had medical conditions. So they're always giving her like Oxycontins when they're real popular and real high dose, opiates. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably what led me into where I went in my addiction too.
Wow. And so your first ever memory being that is pretty gnarly. But can you paint us a picture of like how it was like growing up and the family dynamic and
Yeah, absolutely. So, being that happened so young, my grandma got custody with me. She was a good Christian lady. You know, she had me and my brother in private school. So I had a good religious upbringing. Should have known the difference between right and wrong real early on in my life. Um, it was a good school too. There's something about private school that they really like pump the knowledge in you at a young age. I guess we absorb it more when we're young, you know? So I was doing cursive writing in first, second grade and, you know, knew all my multiplications by heart, memorized like half the Bible by the time I was like in fifth grade, you know? And, so grandma's house was like a really strict run house. You know, everything had a place and a time. Like, there was a structure to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had to wake up at this time in the morning and be in the shower and then brush our teeth and then come sit down at the breakfast table. And, we'd watch TV for like 20 minutes and then we'd be in the car going to school. Like, everything was laid out during the day. Every day it was the same, you know? And then what would happen is summer break would come along and she would send me to spend some time with my mom. And she was just like still out there, you know? So it would be like, I would go into these toxic environments with her and whoever her boyfriend was at the time. And there was a lot of abuse and there was a lot of drinking and drugs around. I remember them like giving me the beers and making me smoke bong loads at a young age, you know, and try to make me go to sleep or leave them alone or whatever. Because they always had what was ever going on in their room too. The door was always shut and they were in there and they would come out and deal with the kids for a little bit. And then it was, summer break was over, back to grandma's, back to normal life. And I don't know, you know, it was just like that, man. That's the way it went.
And where were you growing up? Like, what part of the
Canoe Park. Yeah.
So you're local to this?
Yeah, I'm local to this neighborhood. Yep.
Oh, right on. And what was your dad doing at this time?
He wasn't in the picture too much. Like, I didn't really see my dad too many times. Like, I can remember maybe 4 times in my life where my dad was around a little bit, you know, and they were not ever really great memories either. You know, there's always drama. He used to drink a lot and him and my mom would get in big, huge fights and cops would get called. And it was just every time he was around, there was drama, you know? So I don't know. I just got used to not having him around.
And then, so how does this progress? Like, this is early childhood, I'm guessing. Early childhood, elementary school, that's when, you know, about like 8 years old.
Right.
And then, so how does this progress into like middle school?
Okay. So right after 5th grade, I went to public school for the first time. And that was a big difference.
Which school? Because
I went to Sunnybray Elementary.
Okay.
It's over there, like, Satakoy and, DeSoto, kind of Mason.
Okay.
Somewhere right in there. And, that's where I went to 5th grade there. So I went to private school at Faith Baptist and then I went there to, 5th grade and it was just so much different. Like, I don't know, there's a big difference between the way that people that go to public school are treated and the way that people go to private school are treated. Just the way, like, people that go to private school, they seem to get away with whatever they're doing. You know, they could talk however they want to the teachers and I guess their parents are just paying it off and it's not a big deal. But when you're in public school, you talk back to the teacher, you're getting suspended. And then the next time you're probably going to juvenile hall and there was fighting and everybody's cussing and it was such a change. You know what I'm saying? It was such a change from being a good little Christian kid in a private school going to public school where everybody was just like rough and tough and you had to fight and dude, you know, like it is what it is. Big difference. And then I was, Columbus Junior High, which isn't Columbus Junior High anymore. It's Canoga Junior High or whatever. And then Canoga Park High. And that's like, I was good through junior high. Like I didn't do drugs or smoke. I mean, the big thing that started happening when I was young is when I was living with my mom, I'd start going into stores and stealing candy because mom didn't have like all the food in the refrigerator like grandma would have, and they would be locked in their room and we'd be us kids in the neighborhood. It was like ghetto, we're in apartment buildings over there and we'd just go and get whatever we wanted and, get our parents called and whatever, that might have been where the whole addiction and not big feeling like it was okay to do something even though you knew it was wrong came from, So, and that progressed into high school where I was good. I was an honor roll student because I went to private school and I was good at my homework assignments and my test scores were really high, but I had really bad work habits. So I wasn't, I wouldn't do all my homework assignments because I knew the work. I know what I'm doing. You don't need to make me do all this extra work. I looked at it like extra work, but it was more about just being consistent and doing what you're told and following direction. But I was rebellious, I guess. I started. So in 10th grade, honor roll student, academic decathlon team, I started smoking cigarettes in 10th grade. And then that progressed to starting to smoke weed and drinking a little bit. And then I was living at my grandma's still. And my grandma's like, look, you're not going to be doing this kind of stuff and living at my house. I put up with it for too long with your mom. You can't do this and live here. So I was so smart, academic decathlon team guy. I was like, fine. And I just left. I like kind of ran away at 16, and started getting really into smoking weed and all that stuff and couch surfed for a while. Ended up back at my mom's, and my mom was living in a trailer park in Van Nuys. And trailer parks are just they have that stigma to them, like it is everything they say it is. Like all the movies they talk about trailer trash and all that stuff. That's what it came down to,
Like what would you see at the trailer park?
So my mom's friends were always just as bad as any of the other neighbors. So there's people coming in and out all hours of the night. And my mom was of that mindset, like she'd rather me smoke weed and drink at home than to go out and get caught and get in trouble doing it out on the street. So my place became like the place where we could all go and smoke weed and drink and all that stuff and not get in trouble. Trip out on acid in my room with all the black light posters, whatever. And she was okay with it, And then what that led to, though, is all her friends would see what I was doing. And some of them started to be like, hey, man, you want to make some money? And they started giving me amounts of stuff. And, I was smart. That was my problem. And I started going to school, making lots of money. That was 11th grade, and then it didn't pay off the way I thought it would. I thought I found my career, like I'm going to be a drug dealer or whatever. It was so lucrative, and it started with weed. And then I just started diversifying my portfolio and selling the acid and the shrooms and whatever I could get my hands on, because that's what people wanted, and that made me feel like I was welcome, and they kept inviting me to these parties, and we'd be going to all these ditch parties. I stopped going to school. I dropped out of 11th grade. I was on the academic decathlon team and honor roll student in 10th grade, and I dropped out of 11th grade that fast, and I didn't see a problem with it. I don't know. That's how it just progressed for me like that. Crazy, no breaks.
Yeah. And how does this, continue on? Like, at what point do you start messing with your own supply?
Oh, that was a constant thing. It was constant. That was my get down, was just doing what I was doing to keep me and my friends all happy and doing our thing. Like it was just a party. It was so much fun. We were going to raves and Grateful Dead shows and all that kind of stuff. And it just seemed like everybody in the world was doing what we were doing. And it didn't seem like it was wrong at all. And it didn't seem like it was a problem. It was like what we were supposed to be doing. We're, young kids living life, having fun and going out and partying and doing what we want to do. But, what ended up happening for me was it was going good. Like I picked up my first time going to jail when I turned 18, stealing a bottle of alcohol because I was 18. I couldn't buy it yet. And we needed more, go and steal a bottle. got arrested, did 6 months in county jail.
Wow, 6 months for stealing some alcohol?
Yeah, well, I had a knife on me. So it was like, they were mad at me. They gave me 6 months for that one. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I kind of fought with a security guard a little bit. They brought upon that. He tried to grab me and I tried to I wasn't trying to fight with him. I was just trying to get away, but whatever, they didn't look at it that way. But, it was a eye-opening experience going to county jail in LA at 18. I was a young little kid, not knowing any better. And it was rough in there, man. It was crazy, man.
And how did your grandma and your mom react to that?
I don't know. Grandma probably expected it. Like, I really, like, she did so much for me at such a young age that I was so disrespectful in the way that I went about my life and just did whatever I wanted to do, stopped caring about her. And you know what? She always was there for me. Like, whenever I look back and it was bad, I could always go to grandma's and do some little chore around her house and get a couple bucks and do my thing. You know what I'm saying? She was always there for me, but I never was willing to try to go back there till later on. Like, it all led back to my grandma's house eventually, but mom, she was just, I don't know, man. She was all in the same lifestyle I was in. So it didn't seem like, all her friends, that were the kind of people she associated with. As long as you
the birds like normal.
It was normal, I mean, she didn't like it. I'm sure it upset her that she had to come visit me in there and all that, but it is what it is.
And you said you had a brother too, right?
You have a brother, yeah.
Yeah. And what was he doing during this time?
So he was active in his lifestyle too. Like, me and him both started smoking weed around the same time. He started first. He was younger than me. He's 3 years younger than me. And he started first and like he was like the rebellious one. He was out there more than me. So I was just doing my thing and trying to be a normal civilian and just having fun and partying. Like, I don't know. It really seemed like that's all life was about at that age, But he started getting in more and more trouble too as it went on. It's crazy because right now he's been sober for almost 2 years and his sobriety date is the exact same sobriety date as mine, 110, and it just worked out that way. He didn't plan it that way. And he's doing real good right now. He's out in Long Beach and he's like a part of a big group that take good care of each other. And it's an amazing thing to see, like I didn't ever think I'd see him get sober. I spent lots of years of my sobriety praying for that kid and hoping he'd get it together, man, because I thought he was going to die. But yeah, come full circle now, and he's doing the right thing. It's good to see.
Well, that's good to hear. And so you do your 6 months in county.
Yeah.
And what was that experience like? And would you say like addicted at this point? Like, were you physically dependent on?
It didn't feel like it. The real physical addiction part started a little bit after that. But the county jail thing was it was crazy. Like I said, there was riots all the time, and I didn't like it too much. But that's what you get for messing up. And yeah, it is what it is.
When were you using drugs during this time in there, or
in jail? No, not so much. I think we were allowed to smoke back then, so we'd smoke cigarettes every once in a while, but not. I was able to separate from it, and it wasn't such a big deal.
And cigarettes now are illegal in.
Yeah, they are.
That's pretty crazy, honestly. So you come out, and then what happens?
I try to be on my best behavior. I was on probation then, so I had to just try to up my game up, so I didn't go back to jail. I didn't want to go back to jail for a while, so I was on my best behavior, even though I was still, I was holding down a job. I had a place to live. I had a car. I was doing everything right on the outside, but it was just inside was getting more and more chaotic, craziness. The people I was hanging with weren't the best, and my life just kept going downhill. And then where it really took a turn was when I was 20 or 21, somewhere right around there. We decided to take a trip up to Santa Cruz because we knew some girls that were at Santa Cruz State University, and it was finals week, and they were going to come back, and we were going to be there right back. So we go up there, and we got in a car accident in Santa Cruz, and it was a head-on collision, and I hit my head on the front windshield. I didn't feel like I was really hurt or anything, you know, but the doctors and the lawyers, they're like, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to go see this doctor. And the pain management doctor sent me up with a 30-day prescription of Vicodin. And that was like the beginning of the end for me. And I didn't even know anything about opium addiction or any of that, you know? So I had that 30-day prescription of Vicodin and I was eating them like candy. Like I ate a whole 30-day prescription in 3 days, you know, and I didn't like feel anything. I was so disappointed. I'm like, I thought these things were good. Everybody says they're so good and I'm feeling anything. And it was painkiller. You're not supposed to feel anything really, you know, that's what they do. And, like, so the fourth day I wake up and I'm like, I thought I had the flu, you know, I'm like, oh man, I'm not feeling good. And I called in sick for work and I like, yeah, I got the flu. I can't come in. And I tried to I was drinking and smoking, trying to feel better and nothing was working. And my brother, he showed up out of the blue and he had some heroin. He's like, hey, try this. And he smoked some heroin on some foil and bam, I instantly felt better like that. And I was like, that stuff's amazing. And, I was chasing that stuff for a long time after that. It ruled my life. It became everything. And that's where my life just took a downturn. You know, everything changed. I no longer was a reliable employee. I couldn't keep a job. I lost my house. I lost my car, lost my license, ended up living with my mom again. By the time I was 30, I was living with my mom again, you know, like broken, hopeless, didn't know how to get them together at all, man. And it was really bad and really dark. There was good times in there, not even really good times, just times where everything was working and going with the flow and managing and able to make it work. And then there were times where it was just like, oh, hustling and grinding just to get the next fix. And it was bad, man. Meth went right in there with my heroin use, you know, so I'd do heroin and everybody's like, you're going to die. You got to stop. And I was like, all right. And then I'd stop and not be able to sleep for a whole month. So I'd start doing meth and everybody's like, dude, you need to sleep. I'm like, I told you guys, dude, I am not a good person when I don't get my sleep. I was out there robbing and stealing and it was bad. I got real bad. And that's kind of where the big losses in my life start coming in, because me and this one girl, she got pregnant. This is where my prison term started. Actually, she got pregnant and we were out running amok and living in hotels and slinging dope and trying to pretend we're important people or whatever. And, the people that were coming to us, they're like, hey man, the cops are watching you. The cops are watching you. And I was like, the cops are watching me, dude. Come on, man. You guys watch too many movies or cop shows, you know, I'm not that important. I'm not no big drug dealer, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, just me and my friends getting by at this little, you know what I'm saying? Little transactions, nothing big. But they're like, no, man, they were asking me about you. No, I didn't believe it, but they kicked in my hotel door the next day and they found a box of drugs with my name on it. I was tweaked out. I wrote my name in big letters on it. And that was the first time I went to prison. I was on probation. And so they gave me a probation violation for that. You know, they're like, oh yeah, I don't know. There wasn't a lot of anything. It was just a little bit of everything, like my personal use box, you know, and whatever. So she was 6 months pregnant at the time. And I told her, I'm like, I'm going to go down for this. Don't worry about it. Just get out, get your shit together so we could have the baby. And when I get out, we'll have a normal life, you know? And she's like, okay, I love you. And they take me down to the cop car in handcuffs. And 10 minutes later, they're taking her down the stairs in handcuffs. And she's like, I told them all it was mine, baby. I love you. And I'm like, oh God, dude, why, you know? So we both went to jail. I got sentenced to 18 months upstate. And at that point in my life, I kind of felt like it was a promotion. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was like I moved up from being like a little petty criminal to being a real convict, going to the big boy playground, you know? And it isn't all it cracked out to be, though, you know? Like that lifestyle is just, once you get in it, it's so hard to get out, you know, because you get that number and then you got to live by these certain codes and conducts and you got to carry yourself a certain way and you become like institutionalized, you know, and it came to this point where I started being more comfortable inside than I was outside, which doesn't make any sense, you know, because at least it was kind of like grandma's. There was structure, you know, like I knew what time breakfast and lunch and dinner was. Food would come 3 times a day. And I don't know, you know, shower every day, stuff I wasn't doing when I was out there on the streets. And people had like these morals that they live by in there where, you know, you treat people a certain way, you act a certain way. And I was okay with that. Crazy. So anyways, I get upstate. I didn't even get to the main yard yet. I got the reception and I got summoned back to LA County Jail because we had a child custody hearing and my daughter got taken away by the state. Because me and her were both in custody at the same time. So, that kind of messed me up, man. Not gonna lie. Like most normal people would be like, oh, it's time to quit. You got to get your shit together, try to get your daughter, do the right thing. But I was like, well, these motherfuckers, how dare them try to tell me how to live my life? You know, how dare them try to, yeah, it's supposed to be a free country and we're supposed to be able to do what we want. And all I'm doing is going out there and getting by, like trying to survive, you know, and it wasn't always easy. I had to do what I had to survive. So I felt like it was me against them for a long time anyways, you know, so now I really started to build up this big, huge resentment against the state, against child protective services and the whole 9 yards. You know, I was like, man, these people just have it out for me, you know, and that probably wasn't the case. They were just trying to do what's best for the kid. But, you know, like there's things in life that you can't put a value to, you know, and they were taking something of me that can't be replaced by taking my kid. And that's the way I looked at it. And it was a hard pill to swallow. And it really intensified my addiction more. You know, I started trying to drown out the pain more. I started increasing my heroin use more and I started acting out more. I get out. I got in that lifestyle where I'm going in and out of jail, in and out of jail, in and out of jail. And I just couldn't see a way out of it. I really couldn't, you know, and it got darker before it got better. That's for sure. You know, when I got out of prison finally, me and that girl's relationship wasn't going to work out anymore. There was too much pain. Just even looking at her was hard to look at her, knowing that everything we had lost together and everything that could have been that wasn't there. And, I was really good at moving on and changing up. When you start going in and out of jail a lot, you lose everything a lot and you got to start from zero a lot, you know? So I got really good at starting over and just picking up the pieces from wherever they were and moving on with my life. So that's kind of what I did. I moved on, found another girl and she got pregnant and this is where it gets like really dark because me and her, she did this crazy thing. She got sober when she found out she was pregnant. She just stopped using, even hanging out with me. I don't know how she did it, you know, it's crazy. But, when my daughter was born, I was able to go in there and be in an emergency room when my daughter was born and be the first person to hold her and get that little bit of connection that didn't happen with the other kid, you know? So I was thinking like, oh, maybe this is it. Maybe this is my chance to make a change in life. Maybe things are going to get better now, you know? And 6 months later, I was back in a prison cell, you know? Cause I mean, having a kid is kind of expensive and I didn't have a regular job. So my hustle game stepped up and I was robbing houses and stealing cars and doing stupid shit, trying to be a good dad, not knowing how to be a good dad though. You know, I didn't have any good role models growing up. I didn't have any like solid proof of what a good dad is supposed to be. You know, I was just trying to make sure that the diapers were there, the formula was there, they had a place to stay and, you know, made all the doctor's appointments, got the vaccine, whatever, you know, all that stupid shit. But, so then I had to do a year flat in county jail on that little charge that I got busted with, you know, and, I remember my girl bringing in the baby every other week with my friend would drive her there, you know, and, I watched my little girl go from, not even holding her own bottle to starting to hold her own bottle and looking around and then the sippy cup and then taking her crawl on the floor on the other side of the glass while I'm on the phone. And then, you know, finally saying dada through the phone for the first time. I had to hear it through a phone in county jail, you know, and I'm like, it's just breaking me inside. I was hopeless. I was so hurt and so ashamed of what I become. And, I just couldn't face back. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't see that the problem with me and what I was doing, the decisions I was making in my life. All I could see was I was doing whatever I had to do to survive, and the system was against me and it was rigged. That's the way I was thinking, you know, like the system's rigged. There's I'm never going to have a fair shot at life. It's always going to be like this. You know, I already got this prison number and all these countless jail terms and, you know, just charge after charge and probation violations and parole violations, you know, and I get out and she gets pregnant again. And there's like this big, huge thing because I don't know if the baby's mine or my friend that was giving her a ride to come see me all the time. Cause it seemed like, I don't know, maybe it was just me being paranoid or the drugs or the whole situation. But, anyways, this time she didn't get sober when she was pregnant. And when my son was born, he was born with cocaine and heroin in his system. And DCFS took him and my daughter right away. You know, like as soon as he was born, bam, they grabbed up my daughter and they grabbed up my son. And that was like the lowest point in my life where I was like, and I knew it was rigged against me. I'm never going to have a shot, you know, that, and it's probably for the best. This is probably the way it's supposed to be. I guess I'm not a fit human being. I'm not a regular, normal member of society. I guess I don't deserve to live a normal life, you know, and it kind of just like more ingrained in me that I'm different and this is just, you know, I don't have a shot. My life is never going to get better, you know? So, and that's right where the darkness of the rabbit hole was about to end, because when my kids got taken away, my mom passed away and my grandma passed away, all within like a 6-month period, wow. You know? So now I was just like facing all this stuff. I was in this dark, lonely place where no one was around. Me and her weren't seeing eye to eye anymore, baby mama, you know? And I was so depressed and so alone and so broken and honestly not feeling like I even deserved to be alive anymore. You know, I wasn't sure if what am I supposed to do? You know, no matter what I try to do, my life just falls apart. I'm like 35 at this time in my life and everything I touch just falls apart. And what's the point? You know? So I end up, picking up another prison term. And this is why I so proudly say that I'm an alcoholic and a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Cause like I said, my first time I ever stole a bottle of alcohol, went to jail. The last time I got busted for armed robbery, I fought it down to assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer. I was stealing a tall can of Coors Light from a store. Big Bobby, you know what tall can of Coors Light? Walked out, the security guard tried to stop me. I got a big old fight with him because don't you know who I am, and pulled a knife on this gentleman and went to prison for 2.5 years. They gave me, you know, for that charge. I already had weapons charges and violent charges, so it's another strike on my record. And the one good thing about prison for someone like me is I didn't like drinking and using in prison. It wasn't glamorous. You know what I'm saying? Like it was expensive and like I like to enjoy where I could go and be free. But that in there it's a little different. You know, it's a scary place. You got to be on your toes. You don't want to be caught slipping. You don't want to run up drug debts. And, you know, it's just it's ugly in there. It should be ugly on the streets too. I didn't see it that way. You know, it seemed glamorous on the streets, but in there it looks ugly. So I would stay kind of clean and sober in there. And I did for that 2 years. I didn't get sober in there. That's not where I got sober. I got out and I decided to go out one more time. You know, I picked up right where I left off. I went and bought a tall can of Coors Light with my gate money, and beer had always led me right to heroin because it lowered my inhibition, and it's not enough. It's never enough for me. Like a little buzz is nice, but I want to be in oblivion, you know? So, that's what I do, man. That's what I do. And I ended up sleeping in a church parking lot. I got out January 7th of 2013. My sobriety day is January 10th of 2013. So when I got out, I was a high control parolee. They told me I had 24 hours to check in, and I've been on parole for 10 years at this point in my life, you know? So like we played this game, you know, it was like a cat and mouse game. They had to catch me. I wasn't going to make their job easy on me. I wasn't going to go check in, especially since I was already drunk and sticking a needle in my arm as soon as I got out of prison, you know? So I ended up sleeping in this church parking lot. I was wearing my dressed out clothes, my khaki pants, and my white shirt I got dressed out of prison in. It was the only property I had. You know, I had to start over once again. And it was January, it was cold, it was miserable, and I was just so tired. I drank and used till Wednesday. Wednesday, I had like this moment of clarity. I was like in this church parking lot, and I'm miserable. I'm running out of my gate money. I'm running out of dope, and I'm running out of alcohol. And I hit my knees in the church parking lot, and I prayed to God that I didn't believe in for a very long time throughout my whole addiction. I thought God was a farce because how could he do all this stuff to me that had happened my whole life? My mom, all that, my grandma passing away, my kids getting taken away. It's a sham too. You know what I'm saying? To try to make us behave. That's really how I looked at it. But I hit my knees in this church parking lot, and I called out to God one more time. And like, why do you keep doing this to me? Just kill me already or let me go. You know, it's not worth it. What am I supposed to learn here? You know? And as I'm done cursing and yelling at God, like I had that light bulb moment. I was like, man, if I get into a treatment center, I could get continued on parole. I bet it would work, you know? And I was like, all right, this is my play. This is the only way I'm not going back to prison the next time a cop sees me, you know? So I went down to this treatment center, and I went in there, and I was like, I'm a heroin addict. I need help. I'm going to fucking die. And they're like, okay, come in, fill out this paperwork, you know? And I fill out all the paperwork, and I'm sitting in this office for like 20 minutes, and she, like, they'd done this to me so many times. Like, they'd ask me these questions like, oh, how much drug do you use? And I'd always minimize it my whole life because I didn't want to have to do an inpatient program. I just wanted to, like, make the courts okay. So I'd tell them, oh, man, I just got caught. I don't do it very often. All this stuff. Oh, I drink maybe once a week. Oh, I always minimize it. This time I was like, look, man, I can't go 10 minutes without using, you know, I don't know how to do it. And they're like, all right, here's the problem. We don't have a detox bed open today, but if you could stay sober till Friday, we'll take you right into residential treatment. And I'm like, I'm screwed. You know, like how am I supposed to stay sober? I'm out on the streets. I don't know any different, you know? And I went back to that church parking lot. I drank one more beer and I went to sleep. It was like Wednesday, 6:37 at night, you know? And somehow I slept all Wednesday night, and I slept all Thursday morning and all Thursday afternoon. And Thursday evening came around, and some of my friends showed up, and they had a syringe full of dope. And they're like, hey, man, are you okay? You need to get well. And something weird happened. For the first time in my life, I'm like, no, leave me alone. I never said no. I was always like, oh, my God, believe in God all of a sudden. It was a miracle, you know? Someone showed up right when I need them. But I was just done, you know? And I went back to sleep. Wednesday night, went back to sleep. Thursday night, went back to sleep. Friday morning at 4 a.m, a heavy fog rolled in, and my blankets and my clothes got soaking wet. And I woke up 4 a.m, shivering cold, freezing, going, oh my God, dude, what the hell, you know, why? And I just said, fuck it, it's Friday. I can't believe I made it. I waited till that place open till 9 a.m, and they took me into residential like they said they would. And that's where my journey started. You know, that's where the recovery part started in my life. And I was just trying to play a game. I wasn't trying to get sober. I wasn't trying to change my life. I was trying to get continued on parole, period. That was it, you know? So they take me into residential, and it was a nice residential place. It was co-ed. There was girls running around. I'd been locked up in prison for a long time, and they had a big cafeteria with lots of food. It wasn't the best food, but it wasn't bad food. You know, I've been out there on the street scrapping it, you know, stealing like stuff to make sandwiches with, whatever I had to do to get by. And it wasn't that bad in there, you know. And I did like 30 days. And I finally told my counselor, I'm like, hey, man, can you guys write me a letter so I can go down to the parole office? Because I got a power warrant. And they're like, okay. They write me a little letter. And I go down to the parole office, and I've been on parole for a long time, like I said. So I go in and I fill out my monthly report, and I slide it under the window. And as soon as I turned around, they called me, and I'm like, oh, that's not bad. They always make you wait, you know? And I turned around, and I was surrounded by like 12 parole agents, and they grabbed me and they put me in handcuffs, and they're like, you got a power warrant, Mr. John. And I'm like, yeah, I know. and they took me to the back, and they're like, the supervisor's going to come down and talk to you in like 10 minutes. Oh man. I didn't think I had a chance. My record with them wasn't good. Like every time I come into contact with police, I'm used to going to jail. I'm used to sitting in jail, either a 2-week flash incarceration or a violation or whatever, So I'm like, all right, it is what it is, Nothing. I'm powerless at this point in my life anyways, like they have my number. I can't do anything about it. And, he comes in, and I'm telling you, the only thing I had going for me was I'd been on that prison yard for 2.5 years, and I was like 175 pounds. I'm feeling good and confident. I was able to look people in their eyes, and I wasn't afraid of anything, and 3 days out on the street and then 30 days in this little treatment center. So I had clear eyes and I had confidence, So he looks through my file for like 5 minutes, and he's like, look, Mr. John, why should we give you a chance? You've proven to us over and over and over again you're not willing to comply with any of our demands. And I just looked this gentleman in his eyes and told him, my life's in your hand, and he's like, all right, this is your last chance. You do 1 year in the treatment center. You leave one day before the year's up, or we're manning your pool, and you're doing 5 years in prison. I'm like, cool. I got a year glad in the treatment resort with the girls running around in the weight pile in the swimming pool, and you get to go to outside meetings, and the food is way better than prison food or 6x9 cell for 5 years. Not a hard decision, So I tried to make it work the best I could, and somehow I pulled it off. It wasn't a perfect stay there. I got in trouble a couple of times, but what happened is they're like, you got to get a sponsor and you got to work your steps, and I was like, all right, man. They had the steps on the wall there, and they had the traditions on the wall there, and they had outside meetings that would come in, and I would sit in the back and I'd listen. I'd be like, man, these people are for shit. They weren't like me. You don't understand. It's different. You don't know what I've been through. Started hearing some of the people's stories, and I could relate. Then I saw some of those people that I was going in and out of prison with, and they were doing the same thing, and I was like, oh man, and I asked this guy to sponsor me one day. What happened is one of my using buddies came in, and he was a coffee guy for a meeting, and I didn't even recognize him. He'd gained like 100 pounds, and he was like clear skin and shaved and all that stuff. Didn't even recognize him at all. And he's like, hey, Kevin, what's up? And I'm like, he's like, you don't remember me? I'm like, no. He's like, it's Dave. I'm like, oh, wow, what happened? He's like, yeah, I haven't seen you for like 3 years. I'm like, yeah, I was locked up. He's like, man, I got sober like 2 years ago, man. My life got good. I'm like, how'd you do that? He's like, I got a sponsor, and I worked the steps to my who's your sponsor? And he pointed to some guy that was sitting there, and I would have asked that guy to sponsor me, because if he could get that guy sober, and that guy was a miracle worker. I didn't know how this thing really worked. You know what I'm saying? But I went and asked that gentleman to sponsor me, and I told him, I'm like, look, man, they keep telling me I got to get a sponsor. They keep telling me I got to work the steps. I don't believe this thing. I don't believe it's going to work for me. I see your steps on the wall. I can't get past 2 or 3 where I start talking about higher powers and God. I'm still far disconnected from that in my life, that there's no repairing that damage. I've lost faith in all that, and some of the other steps, I could see how they work. I've done some like behavior modification programs before in my life, and I see how resentments, you carry that stuff around with you. I know how kind of some of that stuff works. So some of that was okay. I could see how some of that would work, but I wasn't willing to do all 12. I was like, yeah, there's no way, and he's like, look, man, why did you give me this year that you have to be here? If if you're not 100% satisfied with the results after year's over, just go back and do whatever you're doing. It's no big loss. And I'm like, all right, at least I could get off the roll that way, So I sat down and I started doing my step work, and I told him, I said, look, I'm going to prove to you that working these things honestly and thoroughly to the best of my ability is not going to work for me. And the only way I could do that is to do it, to prove that it would have worked. So I worked them honestly and thoroughly to the best of my ability. And I went through them in a timely manner. And, in the meantime, there was all these meetings that were coming in, and they're like, hey, you need can you do this commitment? Can you do that commitment? Can you do this for us? And I like staying active, and I like staying busy. So I didn't mind getting up there and doing a literature commitment, or being a secretary, whatever they asked of me, I was like, all right, let's do it, make the time go by faster. When you're a part of something, the meeting goes by faster than when you're sitting there in the back going, man, is this thing going to be over yet? I was like, man, I know how to make my time go by faster. I know lots of jail time, to stay busy, to stay active. Your time goes by, And, man, all that stuff paid off for me. The step work, I didn't even think it would work for me. 6 months into my stay there, I completed my step work with my sponsor, and I was like, that's it. I didn't have like this oh yeah, I'm never going to drink or use again. I got this. I was like, I must have done it wrong, or they just don't work like I knew they wouldn't. And, I got this 4-hour pass because I had an in-house job there, and they're like, okay, you get a 4-hour pass. You could go watch a movie. You could do whatever you want for 4 hours and then come back. Like you used to go out. I was there for a long time, like a year, so you start getting little privileges. And I get out on this 4-hour pass. I was going to go see a movie. I walk out the gate of this place, and within 2 minutes, there's a car full of junkies right there, drawn up, yin down, just scored. You could recognize it anywhere when you're a junkie like me. I was like, the old me would have been like, there is God, like all of a sudden a miracle, or this is my fate, this is my destiny, however you want to look at life, because, the world provides when you need it. I had money in my pocket. It would have been that easy. But I looked in that car, and all I could see was a 6x9 jail cell. I was like, oh, that doesn't even look like fun anymore. It didn't look like fun. And I just kept walking. There's a liquor store the next minute. There's a liquor store right there with all the liquor ads, and none of that looked attractive. And I went and I watched the movie, and I came back a half hour early for my pass. And I sat down on my bed, and I was like, I didn't even feel like drinking or using today. That's crazy. That's never happened to me before. Like how? And I knew that right then that the steps had worked for me, So, I mean, do you want to ask me more questions? I could go along with my story a little longer. So this is where it gets good. This is where it gets good, because what happened is I did my year at the treatment center. The parole agent was like, look, man, you almost got this. You finished the year there. We're just going to get you off parole. I'm like, yeah, right. You guys are never going to let me off parole. I didn't think that I was ever going to be off parole. But I get out of there right when my year was up there. I found a sober living to move into, and I moved right into sober living. And a panel came up, a H&I panel, like, hey, you want to go do a panel with me? And it was right at the place that I went to treatment at. And I'm like, yeah, I would love to go do a panel there. Let's go. And I go in there, and I go on this H&I panel, and I just tell my story a little bit. And there's this gentleman there that was on day one coming off of heroin. And he was throwing up, and he was pale, and he was sweaty, and he was complaining that they weren't giving him his proper methadone dose and all that, all that stuff that I remember was so much, and he heard my story a little bit, and he was like, oh yeah, thanks for coming. And then when he got into residential, he saw me with commitments at the meetings, because I was doing a secretary commitment. I was doing that, and he asked me to sponsor him. And I was like, I don't know how to be a sponsor, dude. I don't even know how I'm staying sober. I'm just going and doing all these commitments and going to these meetings because I'm going to get off parole. That was my main goal. And my full agent told me to do 2 more years on parole. Anyways, they're like, you're doing so good. What's another year or 2? They're like, all right, whatever. So I just kept doing that. I got this gentleman, and we sat across the table, read the book, and did the step work just like my sponsor had done with me. And this crazy thing happened. He made it all the way through all 12 steps, and he was taking a year cake, and his parents had written him off. They wanted nothing to do with him. He had stolen their credit card, robbed their house, and stole their car. They had written him off, and they showed up for his 1-year cake, and they were so proud of him, and they bought a big, huge sheet cake, and they were crying, and he got up and took his cake, and he shared, and he thanked me for being a sponsor. And his parents came up to me after the meeting, and they were crying. They said, thank you so much for helping our son. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know how I'm still sober, but he helped me stay sober as much as I helped him stay sober, because we're in this together. And they were like, well, thanks. Whatever you guys did, it helped. And so the thing that happened to me though was I hadn't felt like I had anything positive to offer the world in my whole life. I felt like everything I ever touched, I broke. My kids getting taken away from me, my whole family dynamic, nothing ever worked out for me the way it was supposed to work out. But I was able to help these parents get their son back. And I was like, man, I was able to make a positive difference in the world. And I would have never been given that chance if I didn't come in here and work the steps and try to help someone else through the steps, because it's suggested of me, And it really made me feel something about myself that I hadn't felt in a long time, like that I could accomplish good in the world, So now I had like a new purpose in life, and I've been running with it ever since, man. Like I take people through the steps constantly. I'm always involved in the work. I've done we put on events for the area. We do all kinds of stuff. I'm active in my recovery. I'm not witnessing recovery. I'm an active member in my sobriety. I do the deal. Like when I was asked to come here, it's like an honor. I was so nervous. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know how to do this, but this, us being able to tell our story is the only way someone that's in the darkness to relate to us, because they see us living our life now and they don't like, yeah, right. They were never as bad as us. Our testimony is the light in the darkness for some other people, and that's the gift I've been given here. So me and my wife now, we have a little 10-year-old son. He's never had to see me drunk or loaded. I've been there the whole time. I got to coach a little league team. Who would have? Come on, man. I have a criminal record that you would not think that I would be able to coach a little league team, and they gave me that opportunity though, because I had 7 years sober when he wanted to start playing. They did a live scan on me and it goes back 7 years. And they're like, yeah, you're good to coach. And I'm like, all right, cool. Look at all the parents a little different on the other teams, like, oh yeah, maybe that guy, like you never know if I could pass the test and anybody can. But that was an amazing experience too. Like to think from where I was sitting in a prison cell 10 years before that or 7 years before that to being out here with my little son and him playing baseball. Like I didn't even plan on being a coach. I went and took him there because he wanted to play baseball and they're like, oh, we need a parent to step up. What we learn in these rooms around here is like when someone needs help, you say, yeah, like what am I going to sit in the stands and watch the whole thing? If they need help, I could at least go out there and help and make the time go by faster. I'm still looking like that way, like, yeah, we stay out there, you stay busy and your time goes by faster, so they gave me that shot and I got to coach there for 6 seasons, fall ball, spring ball, fall ball, spring ball, fall ball, and spring ball. It was, man.
So like 3 years in a row, pretty much.
3 years in a row. Yeah. Until my son didn't want to play anymore. And then I was kind of like, I had an accident. My back was hurting and I was like, all right, let's just take some time off. And we're at a different spot in life now. He kind of says now he wants to go back and play, but he's doing karate and he's like in the play at school and he does piano and was playing the trombone and he's got a busy life. He's staying busy and
passing the time.
Yeah, passing the time, and it's either that or hang out with me and his mom as well, but yeah, these are opportunities that I've been granted through staying around these rooms. And man, the biggest thing that keeps me around though is, like I said, witnessing that first Bonte make it all the way through his step and getting to have this interaction with people that are hopeless and in the dark and seeing them get that year and seeing them take their milestones and being a part of it, man, it's such an honor and a privilege. I've seen so many people come out of the darkness and do the right thing. And not only that, I see the people that don't make it. I see the people that are out there and they struggle and they keep going out and relapsing and dying and this or that and all that craziness that comes along with the whole addiction and the alcoholism. That it's such a reminder for me though. Every time I see it live and up close, I'm like, oh yeah, it's right there. Like nothing's ever going to change about it.
A drink or a needle or a snip away or whatever.
Yeah, one drink is all it would take for me. I know I'd be like, it's never been enough for me. Like it just sets off that session.
Yeah. And how many people do you sponsor currently?
I have about 4 people in the work, but I got several of them that have made it through the steps. I got sponsees with 9 years, 6 years, 4 years, 3 years, I got them all over the place. I got
even back to the full extent.
I do. I try, like I try to find a good balance though. I got to have time for my family. I got to have time for my recovery. I got to work and make a living. And, I try to have a good balance and not let any one part take over.
Yes.
You got to have a good balance. So like,
what is the biggest issue you see new people like newcomers face that kind of prolongs that process or doesn't let them fully dive into recovery and Alcoholics Anonymous?
Man, there's so many different issues with people, like some people just haven't hit the bottom that's sufficient enough to remind us like, man, it's not going to get any better. Some people, I don't know, there's a lot of mental obsession going on in these people where they can't get out of their own way, you know, like, man, I wish that I could just give this thing to everybody. You know, I watched my brother struggle for 10 years of my sobriety, you know, and it was the hardest thing to watch, you know, and I wish I could have like shake it into him or just even give him what I had, you know, I would have gladly given it to him how many times, but you just have to get to that point in your life where you truly want to change, you know.
Yeah.
It's all about, it's something inside of us that has to be, you know, they're just not ready to change. They still see the glamour in it. There's so much glamour about drugs and alcohol, you know, like all the rock stars, that's what they do. All the, you know, like the high society people, they're all like, that's what they do. All these big producers, the music people, the people with money. It seems like it's a normal condition of life where you just do drugs and you could be a normal functioning alcoholic. But it's not that way for some of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not that kind of person where I could have one drink and go about my day like a normal person. It's not like that for me, you know? Some people just got to be convinced that it's, you know, it's a problem.
And do you think that people need to hit that rock bottom before that thing inside of them pushes them to change? Or do you think there's people who don't necessarily have to hit rock bottom and can make it there?
Some people need to hit a hard rock bottom. Some people see the light. I've seen people, young kids get it, you know, that haven't, they're like, I'm smoking weed. That's why I'm here in the room. They're like, come on, man. You know, you're really going to quit? You just started. Like, I don't know. It's something inside of us that tells us that it's the right thing. I don't know. Like, I was stubborn. I fought it to the end. I thought I was going to, you know?
Yeah. What is your religious perspective or your spiritual perspective now?
Great question. I definitely come back to God. You know, I was raised with God. I was raised in the church. Like I said, I knew it well for a long time. I haven't been participating in going to church the way I should, but I have a conscious contact with a God of my own understanding today. I pray a lot. You know, I pray for others a lot. You know, I'm always saying little prayers. They guide me. I prayed before I came in here today, you know, just
should have prayed before we started.
Hey, man.
But you already did have to work, so.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely God's a big thing. It's just my perspective though. You know, I got sponsees that have different views too. And you know, it's more what I do is more of a spiritual thing where you're trying to do the right thing, you know, because I mean, however you look at it in like if you believe in karma or you believe in fate, it's like whatever effort and energy you're putting into the world is what you're going to get back. You know, it's just amplified back to you. So if you're putting out good energy in the world and doing the right things, good things start coming back to you. And I know that for a fact that when I was out there doing bad shit, living a life of crime, everything bad was always happening to me. And I thought it was just the world, you know, but now that I've been doing the right thing and helping people and doing what I can good, my life seems pretty good and I don't have that many problems, you know? And I know that God definitely is there in my heart, you know? I want to get my son closer to God, but I don't, you know, I don't want to force anything on him either. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's part of what pushed me so far away from him for so long. I don't know. We all got to have our own journey, man. I don't know.
The reason why I asked this question is because it seems like the miraculous thing happened to you at the church parking lot. Right?
It did.
Like, of all places.
That's why I come to God again, man. That's why, like, yeah, you were there the whole time. I know, you know, and not only that, man, when I start sitting around these rooms and working with other gentlemen and doing the steps and I see these changes happen, I see people get their kids back and I see all these miracles happening. I mean, there's no way that no human power is making that kind of stuff happen, you know, like you start witnessing miracles. It's really hard not to believe in something bigger than you know, it is. It's really hard.
Yeah. I've seen a few miracles in my short time here, but I can tell you for sure that God exists.
Yeah, I believe so too.
There's a specific version of him that I think is the true one. No, if I stand, but let's go do your research.
Yeah, you know,
go find out for yourself. And then we're having such a good conversation, man. I don't even want to end it here, but the final question I want to ask you is: say today was the last day that you are alive. Say you're gonna go tomorrow. How would you want the world to remember you by? Huh.
Man. Well, I hope that I'd made a difference in a few people's life. You know, they're like, man, I wouldn't be where I am without that guy today. You know, I hope I was a positive influence and not a bad influence. You know, the little devil and the little angel. I hope I could be the little angel on someone's shoulder one day, not that little devil. I don't know, man. That's a good question.
Well, that was a good answer. So, all right. Well, thanks for being on the show, man. This was a good episode.
Thank you very much. I appreciate what you guys are doing. Thanks for having me.
All right.